In this segment, we'll be discussing MLOps. So we all hear today a lot of things around AI and machine learning, and it's very present in here. The number of companies using AI and different methodologies has become more persistent. As we're having larger adoption, it's almost become a given in the industry. And one of the major things that fuels the AI industry and machine learning is, of course, the training data, large language models, and third-party resources where these millions and billions and trillions of records are brought in to an AI model to train it. You reduce the parameters to have the data become more advantageous to the way you want to train your model. And the thing is that all these machine learning models need this training data to perform the operations they do to become more relevant and to become get better results. And you understand all the major things behind AI and ML modeling. It's very significant. Well, there's a lot of issues there, though, too. And what we've done is, as a JFrog, we are actually addressing a majority of the security concerns that a lot of organizations have around ML modeling and potential threats that are abundant in it. And the thing is when you look at training data, there's two different types of training data. There's proprietary training data, and then there's open source training data. Usually it's more controlled on the proprietary side. It usually has a much larger construct. It's got very specific use cases. So there's very specific models for very specific types of operations. Like if you're doing something around, say, manufacturing versus doing something around image recognition. There's also things like non-parameters, and it can be expensive. Also, too, there are some license restrictions that some companies have on how you can use their data. Also, it doesn't really mean it's better in a lot of cases, and sometimes it is more secure. We'll talk about security around that in a minute. Open source, on the other hand, things like Hugging Face, which is a large repository that Artifactory integrates into. They have larger community bases. They actually have a lot of research data. There's a lot of public research data that's put out there by organizations. It's very transparent. And a lot of the time, using these model data are very loose, right? They're built by researchers to be out there to help improve. And the thing is that that's fantastic. And I'm a big fan and proponent of open source, but also too, you need to be able to protect the things that you're using, the models that you're using, and make sure that when you are using them, you're using them the best way possible. So saying that, there's four different types of machine learning, of course. There's supervised, which data scientists supply algorithms and labels and things like that. There's unsupervised, where basically there's, the data doesn't need to be labeled itself. You can go in and relabel it, do the parameters. You have semi-supervised, which works with small amounts of labeled data for training. And then, of course, there's reinforcement, which is a way to keep perpetually prescribing a set of data to accomplish the goal, right? So keep going with the data when you're doing this, but it's all training data, right? No matter what the type of training data is training data, where you're training a model and an algorithm to do something, and you need the data to do this. So understanding that, the way a training model works is that you have the collection, you prepare the data, right? You go in, you change the parameters, you figure out what millions of parameter sets you want to use for your training, you train the model, you evaluate the model, you deploy the model, and you start again, right? It's constant, it's an iteration, it's like DevOps, right? Or the SDLC, it's a constant loop of making sure that the data that you're using is more fitting to the goal you're trying to do, or making sure that the data you have has all the parameters that you need to accomplish your goal. But also, too, understanding this, when we get to the cleaning and the processing and the learning model, and there's a lot involved in this. And currently, right now, these models can be huge. I mean, they can be 5, 10, 20 gigabytes or larger in a lot of cases. And the thing is that a lot of this training data you need to be careful on, right? There's things like bias and hallucinations and data poisoning and malicious URLs and jailbreaked ones and malicious instructions and private information. There's all these things that you need to be aware of. And one of the things that we've done at JFrog here is we've created these ML model repositories, right? There's a remote repository that can connect to something right now like Hugging Face. And then there's the local repositories in which you could take that training model data that you've munged and done all your work and place that back into Artifactory. And then using our security product, using X-Ray and things like that, you can go in and learn a lot about this data and figure out how to protect yourself, because machine learning data is just another model of data. Tons of companies in the world use this every day. Every day, more and more companies are adopting these new AI constructs, and they need data to train it to do its job. We've been surrounded with AI and generative AI, and then we haven't even gone into the different levels, like AGI, artificial general intelligence, or things like that. But everything revolves around machine learning and learning data, right? Understanding that training data. And with ML, it's the same thing with your SDLC, right? So you actually can take the information as part of your dev cycle and actually use that data to do more and understand it. So one of the things that we've done with our SDLC when you bring it into Artifactory is the fact that you can use binary training data. You can have it stored in Artifactory and utilize it and make sure that you're using it most optimally. Because like I said again, a lot of these models, when you're looking at these ML models, are huge. And you don't want to constantly be downloading it. And then also, once you've gone through and refined the parameters and how you want the data to train your model, you want to be able to store it somewhere. Well, that's one of the things that we've done now with we say, it was in beta, now it's actually open and it's available. So you can actually have a local Hugging Face repository or a remote one. We do license scanning, malicious model scanning. We also look at standardizing the process, and all of it is in one place, right? So you can use Artifactory's remote repository to pull your proxy, the large language model that comes from Hugging Face, store it in Artifactory, do all your tuning, fine tune it, perform the model, go in, look at the data, and then take it and put it into an Artifactory local repository. Think about that. So now you have a place to pull down the initial data, make sure it's safe and secure, make sure it adheres to the standards that you want. When you've gone through and you've manipulated and tuned the data to be more apparent for your algorithmic model that you want for your AI, you now have a place to store it. So the thing is that we reduce, number one, the amount of information you need to pull off of Hugging Face with these large language models. We have other models too that we'll be supporting. So don't worry, there's other external repositories. And on top of that, you have a place to store this. So this way, if you're constantly calling it and you're constantly refining it, you're constantly building it, you can keep everything localized to you. This was originally available via our SaaS instance, but now you can actually get it in your own self-hosted instance too. And look forward to more things coming, especially in this ML space from us going forward. This is just the first big stride. So when you think about MLOps, think about JFrog for both the storage of your large language models, the security of your large language models, and once you've tuned and parameterized that data, taking it and storing it in Artifactory so this way it's reproducible. Thank you so much. This really helps understand the way we bridge the gap of MLOps and DevOps together. So now when you look at it, using our proven repository methodology, we now bring that to you in terms of AI and ML modeling itself. Thank you.